Let's start by creating our first variable. I can name it 20 and assign it to a value 20. We can give a variable name of our own choice. I have given it 20. You can give it anything like number 1, number 2, first variable. I can change it to anything because it's a variable. Let's create another variable, let's say 50, and assign it a value 50. Now I will create a variable named sum and give it an expression, and I will add 20 plus 50. So what it does, it just will add the values 20 and 50 and store its result in sum. So sum will contain 70. To see the value of sum, we have to use a Python function print. I will get into the details of the Python functions in future lectures. So for just now, take it as like to print anything on the screen or in the output, we use the function named print. So whatever I will write in these two brackets here will be printed on the output. So if I write sum here, it should print the value of sum in the output. So I will quickly run this code and we will see the output. As you can see in the output, it printed 70 here. So it just printed the value of sum. So from this we know that sum contains 70 value. So if I will print like 20, it should print 20 on the screen. So as you can see in the output window, it printed 20. Similarly for 50, it will print 50. Now I can change the name of this variable to tell you that these variable names are of our own choice. We can give these names anything. So I will change 20 to like number 1, and I will print the value of number 1. So as you can see in the output, it printed 20. So it doesn't make the difference that whether what name is given to a variable. It just look at the value of that variable. Now let's look at another example. I will create a negative number variable. I will say it number 1. Let it be minus 80. Number 2, let it be 100. Now when we add these two numbers, it should give us 20. So I will make a variable named subtract, and I will add these two numbers. Number 2 plus number 1. It will give us 20. So I will just print the variable subtract and we will see the output. So as you can see in the output, it printed 20 because I just added the two numbers, number 2 plus number 1. So what it actually meant is number 2 was 100 and number 1 was minus 80. So it subtracted 80 from 100 and stored 20 in the variable named subtract. So subtract, when I printed the value of subtract, it printed 20. Now I will quickly change the values of these variables and we will see the output. I will assign 2 to number 1 and I will assign 50 to number 2. So now the output should be 52. As I have run this code and we can see in the output window here that the output is 52. What if I divide these numbers? I replace this positive sign with division. So let's now what we are saying here is divide number 2, that is 50, by number 1, that is 2. I will just quickly run the code and see the output. As you can see, it returned us 25.0. Remember one thing, that division always return float. Float, as you remember from our lecture, that float is all the numbers that contains decimal point. So division will always return float. If you want to ignore the decimal point, you can use double slash. So it will, as you can see, in the output, it ignored the decimal point and only returned us 25. Similarly, if I multiply these two numbers by replacing the sign with asterisk, it should now multiply number 2 with number 1. That is, it should multiply 50 with 2. And let's see the output by quickly running it. As you can see in the output, it printed 100. So what it does, it multiplied 50 with 2 and the result is 100. We can create as many variables as we want and perform different arithmetic operations on these variables. I can also just remove these variable names and replace them with the numbers and it will work. As you can see, it printed 100 again. Expression can also be a mixture of numbers and variables. Suppose I write 50 asterisk number 1. So now it will just multiply 50 with 2 and it is same as we have written it previously. So as you can see in the output, it printed 100. So expression can be a combination of numbers and variables because variables are nothing but they are a name for its particular number. So we can have an expression that is a combination of numbers and variables. And we can extend this expression like this as well. We can add number 2. So it printed 150. It multiplied 50 with number 1 and added number 2 in it. If I will add number 1 in it, let's see the output. It's 102. So it just added 2 after multiplying number 1 with 50. Multiplication, division, and subtraction are based on the priority basis. Here it multiplied the number 50 with number 1 first and then added the number 1 into the result of 50 into number 1 because it works on a priority basis. Multiplication has a higher priority than addition. So first it multiplied 50 with number 1 and then simply added number 1 to the solution. So if you want to change the priority, you can use brackets. For example, if I wanted to add number 1 and number 1 to be added first, I will just use round brackets. To the solution of this expression, it will multiply it with 50. So let's see the output. Output is 200. It multiplied 4 with 50 and 4 times 50 is 200. So you can play around with these expressions. You can create variables and perform all the calculations here.